Panache is a word of French origin that carries the connotation of a flamboyant manner and reckless courage. The core group of the Artisans of Southern Vermont discuss the evolution of this exhibition.
How did we all end up in Vermont? And the reason is it's an affordable place to live. It allows a crafts person to be. You're in a supportive environment with a lot of like-minded people, and you can establish yourself, and the more you can work on it, and the more you can work on it without other stresses like how am I keeping groceries on the table, the better it becomes.
The structure of life here is not so tightly organized as it is, say, in a suburb or in a city. There's a population of people who are all on different schedules. I mean, that alone makes it easier to be a craftsperson or an artist.
Vermont tries to support the craftsperson. They have an arts council, they have Open Studio. This is how all of this started, was with Open Studio. That was the first thing that got us in touch with each other.
I think also the beauty of Vermont, because it's a bucolic setting, it actually will draw artists to it, maybe unconsciously or not.
There has to be something very exciting and very profound in the environment. You know, so either, the excitement of the city has its own joy, but the countryside and its beauty and the energy of that is very stimulating. It's very much supported by the culture at every level. I mean, I was amazed when we moved to Pollitt, which is this, a little town, and the first thing we found was they were completely accustomed to having a local artist, and this is the last farming community in Southern Vermont.
I see some nerves happening, but they're also sort of excited. I think we're asking them to stretch, and maybe they don't normally do that, have time for it, or are asked to do that. So I think when you ask somebody to do that, they tend to rise to the occasion.
I hope that people are making pieces just for this show, as opposed to finding something because that's what we have told them about for the longest time.
I think as we're having these conversations, as we're having this show, we're starting to think about and touch on the deep themes and really start to develop an aesthetic. And it's very exciting. It's common to both the fine artists and the craftspeople. I mean, one thing I've noticed just from the few entries that we've seen so far, and even the things I'm thinking about, is, it seems so obvious, and yet I'm astonished by it, is how important nature is to all of the entries. I picture really a snapshot of this moment in history, where, where are we in history? We're at a place where on the one hand we have incredible innovation and technology and things that are taking us far beyond where human beings have ever been. So there's almost an unearthly quality to our lives today. And at the same time, it's really interesting that we as human beings are really reaching back, occurring simultaneously, is this reach back to localism, to roots, to things made by hands.
You take an action, you don't control the results, but generally, for things like this, the gods, whatever, tend to work in your favor. It'll be interesting to see if other collaborations come out of this between people.
The world is in flux, there's a lot of uncertainty, and I personally believe very deeply in the healing power of art. And the importance of having elements of art in our lives.
Or was how people commemorate their lives with art, and how our connection with somebody who buys our art or our craft stays with them. We'll remember that person. I'll know somebody who came in 5 years ago and remember what they bought.
Definitely.
But that brings me to the point that I keep coming back to in all of this, which is you can start out as a carpenter and become a woodworker and become a craftsman and become an artist.
We make a piece for this person. We're making furniture for this person's children or this person's grandchildren. So we're doing, not only are we creating heirlooms for the family, but we're creating generational heirlooms.
I would like people to walk into the show and actually not know who made what. I think that'd be kind of interesting.
I want people, after seeing the show, to walk away and just feel more alive than they did when they walked in.
I would like them to look at this show and say, I'm going to come back for Open Studio in the spring.
I would like people to notice the detail, not just, oh my goodness, isn't that beautiful? I want them to understand how much physical effort and brain power goes into any of these creations?
I'd love people to come into the show, to take time really looking at it, and then leave with a new respect for the artist and what they do, and in this profession of being an artist in a day and age where a lot of people don't recognize it at all. But the people coming to this show are going to go away with a newfound respect.
We are our harshest critics, so I can be happy that somebody loves my work, but that doesn't necessarily mean I like it at all. So I think somewhere in there's a renewed sense of pride in making something.
When I'm in a group show, learn something about my work that I didn't know, but I see it in juxtaposition with other people's work.
I'm hoping that this show turns people on to this corner of Southern Vermont.
Absolutely.
And we are going to be the art center
Oh.
of Southern
And
Vermont.
Any experience is better when it's a shared experience, but just to have somebody else say, you know, you're not crazy for getting up at 3 a.m. in the morning to do whatever.
At its bottom, that's why I do it too, is combating isolation. The life of an artist is very isolated, and to have, you know, partly, you know, we just have a great group. Most of the other movements started around a core aesthetic.
Uh-huh.
And,
Right,
you know,
that's
we
true.
did not. We grew out of open studios. We really grew out of the fact that we live, it's geographical. And so we're kind of doing it from a different point, almost backwards, because other groups, for instance, started as an aesthetic, and then they all went somewhere, and then that fed it,
Right.
and so on. We're just all here, but I think what's really exciting is that, you know, those seeds are being watered, and something is really starting to grow. And also, I think we're gonna, as I said, we're gonna be discovering, I don't think we're even as aware of how much we share of an aesthetic.